Recently, I was reading a website on the subject of Masonic education. The author said that people joined the lodge because they were seeking something. They wanted to join a lodge that also shared their values, and they wanted to be active in the community. But instead, the lodge meetings were boring. They talked about trivia, such as whether to repave the parking lot or just fill in the potholes. Many Masons joined the lodge and attended for a while, but then stopped coming. The author then gave the example of a chapter of Royal Arch near where he lives called Admiration Chapter, where the meetings are always full and there is a waiting list to join. So why the difference? The reason was, he said, because they have short business meetings and long sections on education with speakers and discussion. That is what makes the difference. When we look at Masonic texts for information about Masonic education, we read in Morals and Dogma, written by Albert Pike in 1871. For example, in chapter 30 on the Knights Kadosh, where he says, "The blue degrees are but the outer court or portico of the temple. Part of the symbols are displayed there to the initiate, but he is intentionally misled by false interpretations. It is not intended that he shall understand them, but it is intended that he shall imagine that he understands them. Their true explication is reserved for the adepts, the princes of Masonry. The whole body of the royal and sacerdotal art was hidden so carefully centuries since in the high degrees as that it is even yet impossible to solve many of the enigmas which they contain. It is well enough for the mass of those called Masons to imagine that all is contained in the blue degrees, and whoso attempts to undeceive them will labor in vain and without any true reward, violate his obligations as an adept. Masonry is the veritable sphinx, buried to the head in the sands, heaped around it by the ages." Again, in Liturgies, Legendas and Readings, also by Pike, as quoted in the Scottish Rite Ritual Monitor and Guide by illustrious Arturo de Hoyos, Pike says, "When the knights of the Order of the Temple were multiplied until they became armies, that happened which at length comes to pass in all mysteries, orders and rites whatever. The large mass of the knights, mere soldiers and unlettered men, were unfit to be entrusted with the chief secrets of the order, and these were confided in only a select few, forming an inner circle in the order, and pains were taken, while seeming to make known to all, to conceal them by symbols, by enigmatical expressions, by trivial explanations, which led away from the truth instead of toward it. The same has occurred in Masonry, not only in that of the blue degrees, where no symbol receives its true explanation. The formulas have been reduced to the merest forms of words, and the most essential portion of the third degree has been wholly cut away, but also in the higher degrees. So what are we to understand by this? Obviously, Pike is keen to promote the Scottish Rite, but is what he says about the blue degrees correct? Has the most essential part of the third degree been cut away? Or is Blue Lodge Masonry really a sphinx buried up to its head in the sand? I believe we can learn a lot just by analyzing the ritual. There are many clues given there that point to something much grander than a peculiar system of morality. This also explains why it took 4 years for the first 3 Grand Masters to rewrite the degrees, and also what the documents were that they destroyed in the Grand Lodge in 1720. The Grand Master in 1720 was George Payne, who was known as a learned antiquarian, who would have been averse to destroying documents unless they were perhaps the calculations that were used to rewrite the ritual to hide certain important secrets. I will be introducing some of these in a later video. But to return to the subject of the website I referred to earlier, it is so easy to introduce an educational program into a Blue Lodge. Worshipful Masters have a wealth of experience in past masters, and the Grand Lecturers and the Grand Historians of their respective Grand Lodges that they should be calling on them for advice. Make it a regular item on the trestle board, not a one-off event, and membership will increase. Do it properly. Don't just fill in the potholes.